In this demo, I'm going to run through all of the options I just discussed with you as I try gathering information from a remote client on our network, Client 02. So the first remoting option we're going to take a look at is one that you've seen before using the dash computer parameter with a commandlet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a help, and we're going to take a look at, we're going to be using the get service commandlet to connect with Client 2. And then I'm going to put in detailed so we can see some detailed information. So as we go down, notice with computer name that it lists that this parameter does not rely on PowerShell remoting, so it doesn't use WinRM. So this is one of those cases where you need to make sure that the firewall is set up for this to work. So this is on a commandlet by commandlet basis. So oftentimes you might just have to look at the help to determine whether or not it's going to use WinRM. So we'll go ahead and get out of here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my variable again to verify that that's in there. Set that to client 2. And then I'm going to put in get dash service dash computer name. And notice I can use tab complete to add that in because now I have that variable loaded. And then I'm going to put that into a select where I'm going to get the name and the status. So there we go. So that brings that back. So that's pretty quick, pretty easy, and that's an easy way to run commands remotely against those remote servers. So the next one we're going to take a look at is using PS sessions to make a remote connection. So if you remember, PS session allows us to basically act as if we're on the console of the remote machine. So it's good for real-time work. So let's do a get command so we can view the commandlets for PS session. Notice we've got a number of different commandlets. So enter-PS session is the one that's going to allow us to enter that PS session and make that connection. Exit allows us to exit out. We can do a get dash to view what PS sessions are available on a system. And if we want to create a new PS session, we can do that with a new dash PS session. So I'm just going to simply do a enter dash PS session, and then I'm going to put in the computer name, and we'll put in our variable here, and I'll put enter. So that connects in. So you see over to the left that it tells me that it's connected to Client 02. It tells me what directory I'm located in. I'm in the documents directory on that remote system. So what this does is because I didn't put credentials in here, it's going to use whatever credentials I'm currently logged into PowerShell as. So if I wanted to, I could have added a different set of credentials. Since I'm in my PowerShell with the administrative credentials, that works perfectly fine for being able to access that. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to run that same get dash service command. And then I'm going to put that into a select name status. So you see it brings back those same services. However, these are running on Client 02. So if I want to get out of this session, I can do an exit. And then if I do a get PS session, I can see what PS sessions are opened. And if I want to remove that session, what I can actually do is I could do a remove, and I could call the ID, the name. But an easier way is simply to go up to get dash PS session and pipe that into remove PS session. And that will remove the PS session for me, as we can see. So PS session, again, is a great way for doing those real-time working on that remote system. So the next one we're going to take a look at is using invoke command. So let's take a look at the help for invoke command. We'll go to the examples. So we see in the first example, the invoke dash command is allowing us to actually go to a file path. So this actually allows us to run scripts remotely against a remote system, which is actually pretty cool. The next one, the example 2, is actually what we're going to run through, is going to be using invoke dash command to actually run a script block. And remember, a script block is simply a block of code that we want to run. So in this case, we want to run that get-service code against server 01. So let's break out of this, do an invoke-command, put in the computer name, and then I put in script block, put in our curly brackets, get-service, put that into select name, status, remember to put our end curly bracket, click enter. You see that brings it back for us. Notice it's in a little bit different format because instead of bringing it over in the table format, it brings it over in a list format. And that's happening along the way with that serialization and deserialization of the data as it's passed through the WinRM connection. So we can then actually do stuff with that. So if I wanted to send this to, output this to a file, I very well could. So I could put that, send that to a file, invoke service.txt, and then I could call that from Notepad. And there we go. So we have a list of that. So invoke command, that's one of those where this will work well for if we're running scripts. Also, if we're wanting to do other things with the data, the output that we're getting from the commands. So the last option we're going to take a look at is using sim sessions. Sim sessions aren't going to be used as often as PS sessions. While they both use WinRM, sim is one of those that it's going to come into play when you have commandlets or modules, which is a group of commandlets that have been set up not to utilize PS session. And one of those modules is the DNS client module that allows us to get DNS client information. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to get the remote DNS server information off of a remote system. So I'm going to use the get-DNS client server address commandlet, and then I'm going to put a -C, and notice there's no computer name available as I do a tab complete. So we're going to do a sim session, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in parentheses. So parentheses allows me to run a command inside of another command. So I can do new sim session. I'll put in the computer name, use our variable here, and then enter. So there we go. So that brings us back all of the information of what our DNS servers are on that remote machine. As we see the PS computer name, we see that that's on client 2. So that's a way that we can use sim sessions as well to get that remote information. So hopefully that provided you a lot of different tools for remoting with PowerShell.